Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and welcome to another exciting episode of Failure. This is the Purple Podcast. We're following up on our series of failure in entrepreneurship and innovation and why it's so important. Today, we're talking to Tadeu Caravieri, who is the Director of Prototypes for Humanity here in Dubai. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us in another episode from Jellify. As you'll be aware, we've been focusing this series on that dirty word, failure. We don't think it's necessarily dirty. We think it holds a promise of opportunity, and if utilized in the right way, we can learn so much from it. This series, we're interviewing a whole bunch of corporate leaders. We have a great lineup of people joining us, and today is no exception. Sitting opposite me is Tadeu Caravieri, who is the Director of Prototypes for Humanity. Welcome, Tad.
Thank you very much for having me, Neil.
Before we begin, why don't you just give a quick update in terms of what you do and what Prototypes for Humanity are, because I'm sure people will be interested to know.
Yes, so we are an international assembly of academic innovation. So what we do is we look for great ideas across more than 100 countries, 800 research institutions globally, looking for good projects addressing sustainability and social problems. So hardcore science behind big problems. So we're working for a lot of PhDs at global scale and based in Dubai.
Very cool. I assume then that a lot of the people that you work with are very inspiring, have great ideas, and are always forward thinking. Am I correct?
Yeah, so I think it's very uplifting to work with academics, because I think, going back to your introduction, the concept of succeeding is weaved within the idea of testing, failing, and coming back from that. And because of everything I do is geared towards environmental and social impact, we have a very, very privileged view on the latest potential technologies addressing very, very serious problems from cancer to carbon sequestration, access to education, et cetera, et cetera. So it is nice to see how the structured approach to innovation that normally takes place inside academic labs and research centers produce something that is very advanced. And I think it is due partially to the fact that they do embrace failure, and they go into repeated cycles of testing and coming back from that.
So exactly, you are sitting at the very forefront of innovation, and by its virtue, I think failure is part of that. What I'd like to do, and what we try and do in this series, is personalize this a little bit, right? We want to understand maybe where you failed along the way, Tad. And I know that you've probably never failed along the way, but I would like to understand if you have had an instance in your working life around failure, and I would imagine probably so, given the field that you work in. I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to dig into it a little bit, and then we'll talk about maybe what you've learned from it. But if you've got an anecdote or a story around failure, let's lay it on.
Yeah, there are plenty. And I have taken many U-turns professionally, and I think they are primarily due to the fact that I may have faced obstacles or failed. I think the key lesson, or I think the key learning from the repeated failures, and I'll give you an example in a second, is I think the readiness for that step, which is inevitable as a parent, as a professional, as a citizen. At some time, we're going to come across failure or do something that is below par according to our personal standards or according to the standards of the entities that we work with. That is, I think, almost inevitable. And I think the most important thing, and the lesson that I have learned in my career and personal life, is to be ready for that, is to know that moment is coming, is sneaking up on us inevitably, and to have the resilience, I think, to go over that process of recovering from what can be a big or a small failure. I think going back to the theme of being an innovator or an entrepreneur or as an investor, which is a sort of combination of what I have done professionally so far. To be super specific, I think it's probably commonplace for you because you talk to so many people who are entrepreneurs, but trying to be too perfect in developing a new product or solution for me has been a very frustrating experience, because I think coming from a more corporate mindset, you may want to be 100% perfect before you go to market. And in my previous experience, of course, that has frustrated a lot of the go-to-market strategies and has delayed the process and therefore frustrated everyone.
So what does that look like, trying to be too perfect? Is it too perfect across a whole range of things? Or is it, so for example, my go-to-market, it has to be smack bang before I'm okay with it? Is it not just starting? Is it procrastinating? What does too perfect mean?
I think it is, and I suppose that is the case across most of the people who try to deploy a corporate mindset into the entrepreneurial mindset, is related to the product, is getting something, in our case in the past was hardware solution, getting that pitch perfect before someone can even put their hands on it, before any user can test it or pilot that. So I think if it is perfect, it's because it's too late already anyway. I think someone said that better elsewhere. But I think it is in terms of developing a product that people can pilot and test. My experience is that you shouldn't take too long to get to that point and not try to make it perfect.
And was that a result of the organization or the structure that you were in, or was it a personal non-recognition or recognition that I want to make this perfect? I can't go forward without it being the best thing that I can create? Or was it a structural piece that said, we're not going to move forward unless we're completely happy? Like, what was the format of that failure, as it were?
I think it was a combination of personal mindset and professional mindset as well, in this very tough migration that so many people go over, which is from a corporate setting to an entrepreneurial setting. All of that before Prototypes for Humanity. You come in with a lot of preconceptions about what is accepted or acceptable for any given client. And in the entrepreneurial framework, I suppose that's very different from the corporate one. It should be fine for you to try to get users and people to test it before it's completely ready. So I think it was the wrong product development mindset for the solution.
Did you get the solution out in the end?
In the end, yes, but at that point it was too late. But I think that is the closest that we have gotten to a complete failure in terms of product development.
And so you work actually now with a lot of students, really, really intelligent people. And I think you mentioned from an educational perspective that process of failure is kind of inbuilt. That's part of the educational process, right? Is that the case? Do they fail? Are these people that you're working with, do they have a mindset that failure is okay now?
Yes, I think one of the key learnings from working with academics, and sometimes they may be perceived to be people who put their heads down and then focus and obsess about one subject, and that is partially true. But part of that journey is to experience in an environment that is very safe. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a very important concept that is associated with the idea of using failure in your best interest. The academic environment normally nurtures that or produces a very safe framework for people to test a solution, get it wrong, but very quickly get it right. And I think that is the secret sauce for academic innovation, is the freedom to do exactly that, and the repetitions and the amount of cycles someone can go through that process while doing research. So if you think about this sort of romantic idea of someone working on a lab, that is exactly that, right? It's testing something in a lab, getting it wrong, getting it right, and moving on from that.
And I think probably in a corporate setting, that same principle can hold, I think, within the right framework. I think you still need to allow failure from a corporate perspective, from an innovation perspective. You still need to allow people to grow and change and try things. And if it works, wonderful. If it doesn't necessarily work, then you go back to the drawing board. I think from a corporate point of view, we often don't allow that. It's not within the framework. We have ROIs and budgets and things that we need to hit. Somewhere from that academic approach to the corporate approach, we lose that ability to fail and actually learn. It's probably, I guess, more so to do with time, but yeah.
Yes, I think I work in a very privileged environment where we are Prototypes for Humanity, metaphorically, is its own prototype as well. So we have that ability to continue to evolve what we do, because I think we have to respond to the content and the projects that we have. So we do have the culture of continue evolving the program and what we do. But from my previous experiences in big corporates and even innovation institutions and banking institutions, that concept is not that present. And I think some efforts are made within specific teams. So the innovation team is mandated to be innovative, or the venture capital or the corporate venture capital arm has more flexibility to fail. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that culture has permeated across all the pillars of the corporate infrastructure today.
Definitely. So if you were to go back to talk to young Tad, and with all the wisdom that you have now, all your many years in Dubai and in the corporate and educational fields, and young Tad was about to embark on the steps that involved this failure of wanting to make it perfect, what are 3 things, do you think, that you could impart from a knowledge perspective that our listeners might find interesting and inspirational as well to apply to their own circumstances?
I don't know about inspirational. I will probably tick the bingo boxes of lessons learned over my relatively short and certainly humble professional experience. And I suppose most of them are commonplaces, but in my case, they are really true. I think that being ready to fail is the number one, is not let that upset you too much. And I think when you are 21 or 22, getting out into the job market for the first time, after having had maybe a very positive academic experience and good grades, I think failing, you're probably not prepared to fail brutally. And I think that being prepared for that, it is the number one thing that I think I missed in my educational journey. Mm-hmm. And I wish that concept was more embedded into what I learned in business school back in the days, is having the resilience to go over this inevitable process of failing. The other one is avoiding or taking shortcuts by just listening to people who have been through that before. I think there is excitement about trying to take every single adventure by yourself every time. But I think I wish I had listened to people who were from the industry before and have taken their advice on how I did progress my career, and also product development, going back to our previous conversation topic. And I think the third one is being around people who can help you to recover from failure. Yeah. I think depending on it is heavily reliant on culture as well, and national culture. I have had the opportunity to work in many different countries and cities, and I think some places allow for more failure compared to others. And I think you can build your own microcosms of people around you who help you to go through that journey. Mm-hmm. And I think that really helps if you have the right friends and your little ecosystem to help you go through that. It is incredibly important.
I think it's interesting from a business perspective. The second point that you highlighted there in terms of learning from others around failure. We have these concepts of lessons learned, where we sit and retrospectively look at what's happened, which I 100% agree, because that's the only way that you learn from failure. But equally, you can try and minimize it or try and reduce it by talking to people who have subject matter expertise. And I think we're all guilty of, I know what I'm doing, I can do this, I will get it done. I don't need anyone else around that. So I think it's really interesting that we leverage other people, both after the failure has happened, but we can try and minimize it as well by learning as we go along in the process. It's not an arbitrary, this happens and then we learn from it. It can be a very agile process.
Yes, and I think it comes from a good place that maybe blossoms from over self-confidence. And I think a lot of young people have that, which is good. So I think what I think entrepreneurs would otherwise call obsession about your solution, it is a little bit of a poison pill, right? As much as I think we should encourage people to really pursue what they want to do and be focused, there must be some room to be challenged and to reconsider what you're doing throughout the entire process, right? I think that enriches the entire experience for the entrepreneur, the founder, and the young professional. Is those like frequent reality checks and viability checks that you should do on your solution or on your career. I think that is very, very important.
Very good. Okay, Tad, I'm going to leave it there then. I know you're a very busy man. I know you've got meetings and things to get to. I do want to take the time to thank you for joining us today. It's been hugely inspiring, and it definitely was inspiring. Good luck with Prototypes for Humanity, and all the best.
Thank you very much for having me.